In its heyday, the Oakley estate reached from Blaenau in the north to the Llŷn Peninsula in the west. And quite literally, Plas Tan y Bwlch was master of all it surveyed. Over the last 500 years, various families have owned the Plas and its lands, but the main families were the Evans, the Griffiths and the Oakleys. As a result of inheritance and many marriages, the estate prospered. Although there are references to the Plas as far back as the 16th century, the story really starts about 200 years ago when Margaret Griffith, heiress to the estate, married William Oakley, a young man from Staffordshire. William Oakley and his descendants were responsible for enlarging and enriching the estate until the early 1960s. William Oakley, or Oakley Fawr, which translates as the Great Oakley, was the first of the line, followed by his son William Griffith Oakley, then his nephew's son William Edward Oakley. Note the obsession with the name William. Then finally, through marriage, it became the property of the Ing family, until it was bought by the present owners, the Snowdonia National Park Authority. Great Oakley had a substantial effect on the Plas and its surroundings. He made improvements to the Plas, as well as the church in nearby Maenturog. He was also responsible for the road across the mountain from Maenturog to Llanfrothen. Great Oakley was also responsible for changing the landscape directly opposite and below the Plas. It is said that he tired of the view, and such was his wealth, he decided to change the course of the River Dwyrid. It is, however, more likely that he could see the need to build tidal defences to preserve his lands. In 1797, he was awarded a gold medal for his work by the Society for the Encouragement of Arts and Trade. Although Great Oakley was a prolific builder, the main work was done by his son William Griffith. He built many of the estate houses and rebuilt the Tan y Bwlch Inn, now the Oakley Arms. More importantly, it was during his time that slate became valuable, and it was the quarries that brought immense wealth to the Plas. At its height, his quarry was said to be the largest in the world, with over 1,600 men working there on 28 floors, which went as deep as sea level and rose to 1,500 feet. They quarried 60,000 tons annually from the depths of the earth and were transported along 55 miles of tramway to the surface. Initially, the slates were carried by horse and cart to specially constructed quays on the River Dwyrid, and thence by boat to Porthmadog, from where they were exported to the four corners of the world. The crews of these boats were a tough, hard-living bunch of local men, recognisable by the tall felt hats they'd wear. They were the main opponents to the building of the railway to Porthmadog. But in 1833, the railway duly arrived and cut the cost of transporting slate from 75p a tonne to 25p a tonne. William Griffith was a supporter of the railway, as it would make the transportation of slates easier and quicker. The halt is here to this day, and it is said that if you can get the right connections, you can travel by train to Paris in 7 hours. quarries brought a golden age to the Oakley family. Slate created immense wealth for them. Such was their wealth that they created their own lake, Llyn Mair, Mary's Lake. Although the lake was a place for recreation, it had another purpose as well. The water from Llyn Mair was to run the mill and in turn supply electricity to the Plas. Plas Tan y Bwlch was one of the first houses in Wales to have electricity, as far back as the 1890s. It is fair to note that the third William Oakley, William Edward, was generous with his wealth, even though he himself already had inherited crippling debts. For example, in 1886, he paid for 3,000 quarrymen and their families to go to Llandudno for the day by train. That said, life in the Plas was one of luxury. Seawater for the indoor pool was brought by train from Porthmadog, and the Plas had its own polo team that held matches at nearby Talsarn Sands. As the price of slate fell, the Plas found itself in deep water towards the end of the 19th century. In 1893, Mary Oakley married William Frederick Ing. The Ing family were the last private owners of the Plas until Mary Ing's death in 1961. There followed a period when it was intended to turn the Plas into an upmarket country club with 40 chalets in the grounds. This did not eventually happen, although the 9 chalets that are still here are a testimony to that original plan. Plas Tan y Bwlch opened as an environmental study centre in 1975 and thus began a new and exciting period for the old building. In those days, the grounds had more or less become infested with rhododendrons growing wild and unchecked. Today, the grounds are a testament to the hard work of the gardeners, and now the grounds are a sanctuary for both visitors and wildlife alike. In the forest, you will see boxes for birds and bats. The forest is mostly oak with imported beech and exotic conifer species. In the gardens, it has been the intention to allow nature to have its head within reason. No pesticides are used apart from some on paths. The flowering ivy on the terrace has been left to attract the holly blue butterflies. The lower lawns are left to grow wild to encourage and strengthen wild flowers. The lawns at the edge of ponds are not cut during the dispersal of young frogs. Composting bins have been installed which double up as places for hedgehogs and grass snakes to winter. In the lower orchard, bee boxes have been erected to encourage solitary bees. On a weekly basis, the staff count the birds and other wildlife, as well as noting the general growth and well-being of the gardens. The community orchard has old apple varieties as well as some new stock. It will, in time it's hoped, become a foraging habitat for the horseshoe bat, as well as birds, and the windfalls should be attractive to the local badgers and foxes. Since 1975, the Plas is an environmental study centre, and since 1995 has been able to hold residential courses. The Plas offers a wide variety of environmental courses as well as courses for the public, students and schools. So, after a colourful and sometimes troubled 400 years, the Plas still takes pride of place in the Dwyred Valley and at the heart of the Snowdonia National Park.